There have always been people in need, but different places, different times in history treat people differently. So, what decides how people in need are treated? The thing to realize is there have always been people in need, but they have been treated very differently over different times. So, why? What factors influenced how people in need were going to be treated? They often had the same problems as hundreds of years before, but why are they treated the way they are? So we're going to look through different cases through different historical lenses, different times. And this is the key concept I hope you will take away from this class. Human services are determined by two things. Number one, the definition of the problem. Whose fault is it that this problem exists? And how much resources, how much money society is willing to spend on services. This is the most important thing. A service will be determined by how people think what causes the problem and how much they're willing to spend on it. So what do we mean definition of the problem? So let's think about some of the things that people say are the reasons that teenagers are in trouble with the law. They might say, oh, it's poor parenting. No, it's poor schools. No, it's a lack of strong communities. It's a lack of services. It's genetics. There are bad neighborhoods. They don't have morals. There's drugs. It's because of racism. I'm sure you would not have to travel far to find people who believe that any of these are the reasons teens are in trouble with the law. What you think is the cause of the problem is going to determine what you think will fix the problem. So, if we think the problem of children teenagers in the court system is poor parenting, then maybe you remove children from homes. If you think the problem is poor schools, maybe you spend more money on the schools. If you think the problem is a lack of strong communities, maybe you find community leaders to help, or you just encourage people to move to different communities. If you think that teens are in trouble with the law because they lack community services, maybe you fund more services. If you think that teens are in trouble because they live in bad neighborhoods, maybe you just tear down those neighborhoods. Think about urban renewal of the 60s. If you think the problem is these teens don't have morals, you fund programs to teach morals. If you think a problem is drugs, perhaps you start the war on drugs and arrest vast numbers of people engaged in any kind of drug activity. And if you think the problem is racism, then you may work to seek to overhaul the system. Now, no matter what, throughout history, society has recognized that there are certain groups of people who absolutely need help. The mentally disabled, the physically sick, orphans and foundlings, people out of work, widows. But that help has looked very different at different times.